Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It is April 5th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And today was FOMC day, so that's what the red circle is here. Really, from about noon till the volatility settles down. It wasn't a lot of volatility today. It ended up causing a big sell-off, but we didn't have those wild swings. It got a little bit wild right in here, right at the 1 o'clock hour when the news, right as the news is coming out. But other than that, it didn't really. It just really started selling off after 1 o'clock. So it wasn't one of those crazy days where you get 10 points down, 10 points up a few times before it really figures out what it's going to do. Um, so anyway, we'll back out, talk about the trades. Won't take long today. When I came in, we had a nice trend working higher. Very nice trend. The only problem here is you had to be patient. It was, almost not. It was after 9 o'clock before you really got a decent setup here. Um, because early on, we're still all, even though you got two attempts to go lower here that bounce right off that midline, you still got um, the only price action you got is the overnight. You've only got just a little bit during the regular session, and it's pretty much sideways. So I do like this trade. It's not a perfect setup, um, but so it's going to be a little aggressive if you take that one. This first one was still in the overnight, uh, around 7:30 this morning. Uh, Notice we're moving up. It is a failed second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry, and you move higher. So it's your failed second entry short, but it's right into the high of the overnight. We've already had a close outside this little short-term trend line. A lot of reasons to be scared that we're kind of going sideways there. There's no real dojis in there. Everything's really closing up near the high except for that one bar that started the correction. So you might consider that one. It is a trap. I mean, it is a failed second entry short. It's not really a reversal pattern because we're a long way away from the EMA. So really, I recommend skipping that one. But there's a reason to consider it. So I did mark it green. Same with this one. I'd really like to see one more, like a double test rule or something. But at this point, we're still moving. You're probably going to get a new high if you don't quite have enough room to get out there, but it does bounce right off the EMA. Not a perfect signal bar either. So again, it's a little risky, but if this is going to be a strong trend day, that may be the best you get. But you need a little evidence first. Notice I marked this first move, and really from that correction there, once we did start going higher, you're looking for a measured move. You see we came within a tick or so of that measured move there. Um, but by the time we came back again here, notice that you got a double bottom, so you got a new, you can count that as a new low, and really you got two attempts to go higher. Really what you have here is a failed break lower below that support right there, and a strong market that comes back to the EMA again and reverses. So I like that one. Once you realize you got a strong trend, you're looking for that measured move, which is way up here. Um, so you just have to find a place to enter, and then you basically get another repeat pattern. This looks just like this one, very similar to this one. Just go long there, and then of course we correct, and we did get a little overshoot here. That's not a real strong overshoot that would lead me to believe you'd get a reversal, but you figure we'd still go for a new high, which we did end up trying to get a new high after the break here, but we had a pretty good sell-off first. I don't think you want to go short until you get this trap here. In fact, there's one more long here. You got this little channel trend line working down. You get a little close outside. It's not real convincing, but you get one. But there's two ways to look at this, so you got a couple different ways. So you do have a little break and a new low, but also you got all that support and you got that little failed break lower, and that's a little small bar. It's maybe 3 or 4 ticks, something like that. So I like going long there, trying to catch a ride back to the new high. You get a scalp, but you don't get much more than that. And then of course you want to draw your trend line off those first two swings. just in case, and that would have kept you out of this long right here because it's right into that trend line. Um, and if you did go long there, when it starts going sideways and it can't go any higher, I'd probably exit. Just take what it'll give you, a tick or two, and get out because it's not doing. It should have gone on higher here, and it didn't. But when it turns down, you know you got that trap. I'd go. I like going short right there. And at this point, I'd be looking for a measured move similar to this one from right there. Really, the downtrend started there, and you see we got a perfect measured move from that before it bounced. It did end up going lower, but you still got a perfect measured move there. And then once we started going lower again, I'd look for another measured move just like that again. We went a little further than that this time. There's a second entry short here, but it's not at the key entry point. There probably is a midline in here, but this is not a real strong downtrend at this point. So you can see there is a midline in there. So this is coming off that midline, but it's just not. It's not a real strong downtrend, and you've really got two legs down. So I don't like entering there. I'd skip that one. And you really don't get another chance to enter until it bounces. There is a second entry short here. I forgot to mark this one. You had this overshoot, and this is the reason I hadn't marked that one. I was trying to decide if I want to make it green or red. But you do get a close outside this trend line right here and a move to a new high. And there's a little bit of a close outside here too. So I was really uncertain of whether we would probably reverse here or if we might still try to make a new low. So that's the issue with this one. It's real close to being green. That's a pretty good signal bar there though. It is close to the EMA too. So you might consider that one. I want to talk about this one a little more too. Actually, the more I think about it, I didn't like that trade, and even though there's some reasons to take it, I'm going to change it to green. I just think it's risky because we had what looks like a close outside here. We've got a big overshoot, and a lot of times when you get an overshoot, you don't even get a retest try at all. You get a reversal pattern and it goes higher. So anyway, needless to say, I'm not crazy about that short. But another trader asked me about a measure. He measured this leg right here, and then he was looking for a measured move down, which there's nothing really wrong with looking for that, but you don't enter the trade based off that. This just keeps you how you want to stay in the trade if it continues going lower, but it doesn't. It goes higher. So immediately when it starts going higher, you want to look for a measured move to the upside. So you measure that, and you see we got that to the tick. It actually pushed up one more time, maybe another tick or so, and then it reversed. So, there was nothing wrong with looking for that measured move, but once you realize you got another trend working higher, you got to switch gears. So, and you don't want to make all your decisions based on that measured move. That's just a target if you get in there and you want to try to stay with it. But once it broke higher here, I would have exited. You probably would have got stopped out anyway. But this trade would have worked. He would have just been managing a runner on that. So I don't know if that's what he was doing or not. He did say the trade worked, but so I'm guessing he was wondering about managing his runners. And that's the thing about runners. There's always a risk that's why we do it that way, because it may not go that far. The only thing we're guaranteed on any of these trades is a scalp. If you get more than that, that's just gravy out of it. So, and you will get a lot more than that on a lot of them, but a lot of them you get that, all you're ever going to get is the scalp on it. So just understand that these trades are designed for the scalp, and the runners are like bonuses. So, but anyway, you drew your trend line going up off those first two, and it was tempting to enter here, but you really can't. You better wait on a higher low and another test of this trend line, which you get right here. So I like going long right there. And maybe we'll get that new high now. We don't quite get that, but that gets you into the noon hour. And of course, you don't want to take anything from about noon on. There is a failed second entry short right here that you might have considered. It would have worked. We weren't back to the trend line. It's going into that hour, but you could probably, if you wanted to take that one, it's there. It does fit the bill. Um, you do have a new swing low. It's lower than that one. So first entry and then second entry, and it fails, and it does go higher. So you could even argue for that one to be close to being blue. The only reason I didn't like it is because it's into the noon hour with the FOMC news coming out. And you don't want to get caught in that, because even though it probably would have worked out for you today, it doesn't always do that. So you get, a lot of times it just starts getting real tight like this and going sideways right before you go into that news, almost an hour, and you see it did that here. That's actually after it already came out. Where's the 1 o'clock hour? Let's find the 1 o'clock hour. It was actually on that bar right there. So yeah, that gets you into the 1 o'clock hour. But a lot of times you'll get something real tight like this. It just keeps going sideways right into that 1 o'clock hour. And that's the reason I'm real leery of that stuff. So, but you can see we did have a little bit of volatility. It's not as bad as some of the days you see, but we had some. So, but no trades until really I kind of like this one. Notice you got a double top here, a new high, first entry long. This one really confirmed the trend line, but I don't think you want to go short yet. It's still too much uncertainty, but then it pushes lower, pulls back, and it confirms that little short-term trend line plus the bigger trend line. And now you got a little room to work with, a fairly bearish bar, and things seem to be looking a little more normal now. And it's been, 40 minutes or so since the news came out. So I like going short there. And at this point, you're thinking, we may test the lows of the day that's way down here. So there's a good chance that may happen. And you see that we actually did a little better than that. Of course, this is way into the 3 o'clock hour, but doesn't matter if you're managing a runner. You still want, that's going to be your first target probably. Plus you really want to measure. I'd say that's where the downtrend started. So you measure that leg and you move this over, and you see we went way past that. But that would have been my first target. First target would have been that, and then the measured move. And you really just didn't get another chance. There's a little breakout pullback short here from these lows. Even if you use this another shorter term trend line, that's your first break, and there's not really a whole lot of room between here and there. So I don't recommend taking that one. It's just a first entry short, and it does look like the other side of the channel is the main thing. You see there's two. There's your lows, and you're going short right into that. So I don't recommend going short there. So that was really the last trade of the day right there. So really, that's all you had from noontime on today. So, but in the end, it wasn't a real difficult day, especially considering it was a FOMC day. This might have thrown some of you off a little bit here, because it does look like we're going to go higher. You would expect we might go higher after a trend that big. It's very rare that you don't get a retest. Notice we did get one, but it took a while before they were able to push it back in that direction. So, I would not 99% of the time with a trend that strong, I'm going to expect a retest, and usually it's not going to have that big a sell-off first. So that was a little bit. I could see that throwing some of you off. If it did, I can see why. So it's a little bit, that throws me off. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.